All right, everybody, this is getting exciting. This is what, the third or fourth video in the series where we're building out this project, SideBling.com. The first video was an introduction to the idea, which is very simple. You go to the site, you enter an interest or a hobby that you have, and it's going to help you through AI how to monetize your skills or your interests. So in the first or second video, rather, we did this custom logo design. We also, in the second video, the last video, we did this design right here, this UI design in Figma. And then now in this video, we're going to go ahead and hop into Cursor with Claude Code, and we're going to use the Figma MCP server in order to get this automatically translated as close as possible to the browser. Okay, so what we're doing now is, one thing that you have to be certain of is if you come up here to the menu and you go right over here, you want to make sure it says enable dev mode MCP server. All right, you want to make sure that that is checked on. All right, otherwise it won't work. And next thing is I made this Figma file available here in the description. Check that out, and you'll see that I did do some updates since the last video, just specifically in reference to the various names here. I really named all the layers as much as possible. So if we get the cards out here, these are all named up appropriately. And now what we want to do is we're going to go over to Cursor. All right, so I have a new folder opened up called SideBling. You can see there's 0 files in it. We're starting from scratch. And over here we have our chat window. And one of the things that we're going to do first is install Claude Code. All right, so if we go to terminal, or view rather, terminal, we're going to find real quickly the installation command for Claude Code. All right, so this is actually simple right here. You're going to copy this code right here. If I zoom in, you can see what that says. And we're just going to right click, and that will paste it. And now it's added a couple of packages. Now if we just type in Claude, this is what you should see. So let me expand this up. So do we trust the files? Yes, proceed, hit enter. Welcome to Claude Code. Tips for getting started. All right, so this is basically the starting point. So you have to think about this. Instead of trying to one-shot the entire app through a single prompt, you don't want to do that. You really want to break down everything as much as possible into its individual parts. Now, I know because I'm already been a front-end developer and designer. I've been in this stuff way before AI for like 25 years, literally. I understand that I already know what tech stack I want to use. Now, you can perfectly go ahead and ask it either here in the chat in Cursor or in Claude Code. Don't ask it to write code. Just say, hey, what tech stack should I use for my purpose or whatever this business is? But for me, I know I want to use Nuxt.js. So what I'll say is create a project. Let me zoom up so you can see this a bit better. Create a Nuxt.js project, rather, in the project root folder. And I think that's all we're going to need at this point. It's a straight, simple, forward thinking process. Nothing too crazy here. I'm not going to ask it to translate the design yet. I just want to get it installed. So now what it's going to do is ask you a bunch of follow-up questions. Do you want to proceed? Yes. And don't ask again for npx commands and blah, blah, blah. No, and tell, okay, what to do differently. So I'm going to go ahead and put 2 right there, because what will end up happening is it will keep on asking questions for being able to initiate certain commands. So now, as you can see, we have a Nuxt app folder in here, Claude folder. It's working. It's showing you what it's doing. Next up, it's going to ask here, move Nuxt.js files to root. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Hit enter. All right, so here we go. You can start the development server with npm run dev. I'm going to hit plus right here for a new terminal, and npm run dev. Let's see what happens. So localhost, I think I already have something else running on 3000 port apparently. And here we go. So we have our little app up and working. Welcome to Nuxt. This means that the app is installed. We have it ready to rock. Okay, so now the next step here is you want to make sure within Cursor, if we go over here to the chat area and we go to Open Chat Settings and we come over here to Tools and Integrations. This is where your MCP servers exist, and you can see we have Figma right there. Also Supabase, which we may or may not end up using for this project. We'll see. But we want to make sure that this is installed. And if you want to know how to install it, I actually have a video already separately on how to install it. It's really quickly. It's just click Add New MCP Server, and then there's like a little code you paste in. But anyhow, make sure that that is ready to rock as well. I'm going to actually use the Cursor chat for this step instead of the Claude Code terminal, and that's because I was having a hard time getting the MCP server working here on the Windows 11 with Figma and Claude Code. So it does work, and it's connected with my chat up here. So depending on when you're watching this, maybe it's an easier integration, but I'm going to specify the prompt right up here in the chat and Cursor. I'm using agent mode Claude 4 Sonnet. So the first thing you need to make sure is go over here, make sure that the frame, the entire desktop frame is selected. All right, I'm going to just drag this off to this side of the screen. And then over here, I'm going to go ahead and specify the prompt for it. So essentially, I'm going to, let's make this larger. I'm going to say, I've selected a layout in Figma, use the Figma MCP server to accurately create the selected design. Now, another thing that's going to be important is if I come back over here is you can give it more specific instructions. Like for instance, let's say this right here where it says what is an interest or hobby that you enjoy. We're going to ask it to treat that as a floating label. So a floating label is when you click on and focus in this text field right here. This will kind of move up and kind of like get smaller. That way you always see, what's happening. So with it selected still, I'm going to specify, and by the way, the name of that is called the hero. I'll be referencing the actual names, like this is hero CTA, the CTA container, and then text field right there. So now I'll go ahead and specify that little requirement. So I'll say, make sure that the text label inside of the text field is treated as a floating label. So when someone clicks or focuses on the text field, that label will reduce in font size and shift, or animate above the text field. Something like that. Also, we'll say these cards down here should be bound to the bottom of the viewport, or in other words, they'll always stay to the bottom of the web page, or depending on whatever device you're on. We'll call it the viewport. Basically, it means browser. And so we can give it that instructions as well. Also, make sure that the footer cards are bound to the bottom of the viewport. Okay. So with that said, I'm going to make sure that this is up. We want to make sure that frame is selected, desktop, when we hit enter. And let's go ahead and do so. Here we go. So now it's going to think about what to do. It's planning. First, need to check what tools are available to me related to Figma. So the Figma MCP server is enabled. It should have access to that. It's kind of looking at the overall project structure. However, okay, so now what's bad is it's saying it doesn't have access to the Figma MCP server. So I'm going to go over here to chat settings, because I did end up restarting this. Let's see here. Tools. There we go. So I'm going to do this and then just turn it on and off. And then now I can click back up here and start that again. So now I'll close this, and hopefully this time it's actually going to work. There it goes. So it says calling get code right there. That means it has access to the MCP server. So get code means it's probably getting all the token information, the variable styles, all that stuff that we defined. Get image is a screenshot that it automatically generates. So now it's just saying it has access to all that, and pretty soon it might actually install something like Tailwind CSS, which is fine. And I noticed it just said that real quick. Tailwind CSS is a very popular sort of CSS library. Now it's starting to create the HTML markup along with the Tailwind markup based on the selected design in Figma. And there we go. This is it. Yeah, it's not perfect. There's a couple things that we need to definitely fix. Look at that. That worked. So if I zoom up right here, kind of see this a little bit more so, that's the floating label that we told it to implement. And if we didn't tell it to implement it, then it would have done it, chances are. So that's very cool. That works perfect. This top up here is not centered, this area. Again, we can enter a follow-up prompt. Let's see if these are bound to the bottom at all. They are. This is exactly what I wanted. So far, so good. Of course, this is breaking because it's we have scroll bars down here because there's a bunch of those. What we'll probably do is end up removing all of them except for one, just for placeholders until we get real data attached to it. The logo obviously needs to be updated based on the logo that we have in Figma as well. It kind of literally just made its own logo, which is funny. So let's get those few things fixed up. So the first thing is to get this centered. Right, so we want the navbar section to be centered. So what I'll do is switch here to node. Please center the navbar. If I enlarge the viewport, let me get up a little bit closer here. On a 4K monitor, the entire navbar, logo plus menu, stays fixed to the left. All right, so let's go ahead and hit enter. What does that say? It said, initially before processing it said pontificating. What is that? All right, so what we can do is look at this. There we go. Guess what? It's fixed. All right, so next up, now we can go back to Figma. We want to select the logo and export it. So the logo SVG is the actual layer. Come over here and we'll choose export, make sure SVG is selected, export logo SVG. Now when I do that, I'm going to go to my code folder, SideBling. Let's see here. Trying to determine where I want to put this, the logo in like the assets. I'll go back to cursor and I will ask, what folder should I place assets such as a logo SVG? Don't make code adjustments. All right. All right, so it's saying in Nuxt.js, you place assets like a logo in a public folder at the project root. All right, so let's just put in a new folder ourselves. Right click, new folder, public, and then we'll switch back to Figma, and there we go. So that I did that step to show you if you're not sure about something, just ask, the LLM. So export, we're gonna go to my code, SideBling, public. We'll call this logo.svg, all lowercase, hit enter. All right, so now we can say, replace the logo that is currently in the navbar with the logo inside of /public logo.svg. All right, so it has the logo now right here, ready to rock. It's not clickable. That's something we could fix afterwards. But yeah, this is a very good first start right here. I like the scale of everything. The scale looks good Of course, we'll fix this. We'll make those like a rotating marquee of sorts. They'll slowly kind of scroll on by once we have actual data to work with. The next thing what we're going to do is I want to, in this video, do a little bit of development work. I want to get Open API integrated. And then I also want to get this functioning, this little text field with the submit button, so that once we click on it, then it's going to give us some results. It's not going to be designed for yet because we haven't created the design, but I just want to see what type of results it's going to give us because I haven't built this yet. Like I have no clue. Hopefully it'll be able to do what we want. So what I'll do is go back here, and I had to restart everything because it froze after that previous logo fix attempt. So if I go back to Claude, and I'll go ahead and specify, this would be a good time to run the init command, by the way, now that we actually have a project in here. So I'm going to hit init, and this creates a Claude markdown file, MD file. So it's going to analyze the code base structure and architecture and do all this other stuff. And essentially, whenever you start a new chat, it's going to check that file so it understands kind of what's happening with everything going on here. What's cool is it says it already knows like the purpose of the app based on the home page. All right, so if we click on Claude, this is the actual file, project overview. Now we can edit this if we want right here, or you can also do it through a command in Claude Code down here in the terminal. Okay, so now the next part is we want to integrate OpenAI API so that we can then be able to start using that text field with the call to action submit button on hero section. So now I'm going to say integrate OpenAI would be one such example. All right, let's hit enter. So here's the tasks that Claude Code is breaking this down. Install the OpenAI SDK dependency, create API route for OpenAI integration, environment variables, update UI to display generated business ideas. Now the UI it creates we may not end up using. So now it's specifically focusing, I already installed the OpenAI SDK, create API route. So it's going through all these. So do you want to make this edit? Yes, and don't ask again. There we go. All right, it appears as though it is done. So now we're just going to go ahead and take a look at how we get the OpenAI API keys and set up with the environment variables. All right, so I did exactly that. I renamed my environment variable from .example to just .env. I put in the API key. This was super simple to follow the process. It literally takes like 60 seconds. And then now it's time to actually test it. Enter an interest or hobby. Click show me the money. You should receive 8 to 12 business ideas. So I didn't even test this yet. We're going to see if it works. Notice how this is already like grayed out. I didn't ask it to do that, by the way. I don't know why it did that. You wouldn't want that behavior, so I would tell it to remove that. So in interest or hobbies, let's just do, I like reading romance novels and see what happens. Show me the money. Generating. So this is where I would normally kind of get rid of the UI right here and have like a loader of some sort. But, okay, so there we go. It did exactly what we want. Yes, it's broken and ugly as hell, I know. But it did what we want. So for instance, romance book curator. Create a subscription box service that delivers curated romance novels to subscribers. A reviewer, writing workshop host, personalized romance novel writer, a book club organizer, a podcast host, a novel editor, romance novel cover designer. So these are all a bunch of just, different ideas. It came up with 12 of them. And now it's going to be up to us to format and structure this data. into a comprehensive UI that will then allow people to dig in further to each one of these ideas with another API call that will probably communicate with OpenAI, but also other API services. For instance, like what if there's an API for different jobs or professions where they'll be able to hire people to help them to build that business idea. Or another idea would be to sell any type of products that have an API service that would be relevant based on, setting these things up. Or how about showing YouTube videos that are relevant that would help people set these ideas up. So there's a lot of ways that we could create a really useful app through AI. But right now, I'm happy with where we're at. That's a long enough video for now. In the next video, releasing here in a day or 2 or 3, we'll continue on, probably step back into Figma in order to get the loading screen ready, and perhaps also the screen that shows up after that lists out all of the ideas. All right, so make sure to check out DesignCourse.com because I have other full projects that utilize AI in the full context of design and code. And yeah, I will see you all very soon. Goodbye.